In the final winter of World War II, 1945, the skies over Europe burned with chaos. Every day, hundreds of aircraft vanished into the clouds, never to return. Among them was a young Royal Air Force pilot named Captain Jonathan Rowe, 26 years old, calm, fearless, and known among his crew as the man who smiled at storms. On the morning of February 13th, Rowe took off from an airbase in southern England for what was supposed to be a simple reconnaissance flight over the North Sea. It was cloudy but calm. He radioed control and said, "Visibility fair? I'll be home for tea." Those were his last words. An hour later, radar contact with his Spitfire vanished. No distress call, no smoke, no wreckage. The North Sea swallowed another name, another ghost. Search teams found nothing. His mother kept his photograph on the mantelpiece for years, refusing to believe he was gone. The war ended, and the world moved on, but some stories never settle. Almost 30 years later, in 1974, a British cargo ship named Mariner's Hope was crossing the same stretch of sea. It was just past midnight when the radar operator noticed something odd, a faint blip, approaching fast, too slow for a jet, too steady for a bird. The crew stepped outside, scanning the sky. Through the mist, a light appeared, flickering like an old plane's lamp. Then came the sound, a low, rhythmic hum, unmistakably a piston engine from another time. The men stood in silence as a World War II Spitfire roared past the ship, flying dangerously low. Its paint was faded, its markings barely visible. One of the sailors shouted, "That can't be real. Those things don't fly anymore." The plane made one slow circle above them, its wings catching the moonlight. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished into the fog. The ship's radio picked up a faint signal, old Morse code, weak and crackling, repeating a single phrase over and over. "Message," in the clouds. The transmission lasted less than a minute, then disappeared completely. When the ship docked in London, authorities dismissed the report as confusion or an old signal bouncing through the atmosphere. But a few days later, a radar station in Yorkshire reported the same, reading an unidentified aircraft matching a 1940s Spitfire pattern flying low over the coast before vanishing near the sea. The case became a brief headline, then faded away like the mist that had carried it. But that wasn't the end. In 1982, a fisherman near the Danish coast found something. Caught in his nets, a small metal panel with faded RAF markings. Testing confirmed. It came from a Spitfire built in '44. On the back of the panel, scratched faintly into the surface, were words written by hand, still flying. J. Rowe. Experts called it a hoax, but the metal was authentic, aged perfectly, untouched for decades. By the late 1980s, the story had become a legend among pilots. They said that sometimes, when flying through storm clouds over the North Sea, radios would pick up faint static, and through it, a voice calling, "This is Captain Rowe." Visibility low but still airborne. Those who heard it said the voice was calm, steady, and heartbreakingly human. An aviation historian named Sarah Collins decided to investigate. She spent years tracing Captain Rowe's mission logs, flight routes, and maintenance records. Everything matched the area where the Spitfire had vanished. Then she discovered something extraordinary. Rowe's last recorded flight had been part of an experimental mission. His aircraft had been fitted with a new type of magnetic compass designed to resist interference from storms. But the device had a flaw. Under certain electrical conditions, it could distort readings and even loop the navigation system. That meant Rowe might have been flying in circles through the storm, believing he was heading home while in reality, he was drifting further out to sea. Collins published her findings, calling the case a tragedy of technology. But she admitted one thing that still haunted her: the Morse code. Signal the ship received in 1974 was not a random phrase. The pattern exactly matched Rowe's personal identification code, used only by him during missions. The probability of that happening by chance was almost impossible. In 1992, divers discovered a partial Spitfire wreck deep under the North Sea, remarkably well preserved. The tail number was visible: KX-237, Captain Rowe's plane. The cockpit glass was shattered, but inside they found the pilot's helmet, rusted but intact. Tucked into the lining was a piece of paper sealed in plastic. The ink was faded, but one line could still be read: "If anyone finds this, I am not afraid. The sky is home." When the artifact was displayed at the RAF Museum in London, visitors said they felt a strange calm standing near it. One elderly woman approached the case, tears in her eyes. She introduced herself as Rowe's niece. "He was never afraid of death," she said softly, "only of being forgotten." That night, the museum's security camera captured something unusual. For exactly 3 seconds, the temperature in the hangar dropped, and a faint sound, the hum of an old Spitfire engine, echoed through the hall. The recording was analyzed, but no logical source could be found. To this day, pilots flying across the North Sea sometimes report flickers on radar, small blips that move like propeller aircraft, though none should exist there. A few even claim to have seen a single Spitfire gliding above the clouds before fading into the horizon. When they radio the control tower, they sometimes receive a faint reply, an old-fashioned British voice saying, "Hold steady, boys. Almost home? Maybe it's just interference, or maybe it's something more. Maybe the sky keeps its promises better than the earth does. Perhaps Captain Rowe never truly disappeared. Perhaps he's still out there, chasing the light through endless clouds, carrying the message that he tried to send all those years ago. A message not of fear, but of faith, that even in the darkest storms, something eternal keeps flying. So the next time thunder rolls over the sea and lightning cuts across the clouds, remember this: not every echo is gone, and not every pilot who vanishes is lost. Somewhere above the horizon, beyond the storm, Captain Rowe is still flying, and the sky still remembers his name.